everyone, and welcome once again to I've Been Playing. Today we're talking about Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water. Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water is of course the most recent in the Fatal Frame or Project Zero series. Before we get into anything about the game itself, as the game tells you, there is obviously a warning for graphic content as well as some topics that some people may find uncomfortable to talk about. I would suggest going to the main website for the game, which I will have linked in the description down below. If you are concerned that some of the themes in a game like this may be too much for you, the website does not go specifically into what the main plot point is, and I'll get there, and that's why I'm saying this now, because it's a major part of the story. But there's enough there that you can probably work it out for yourself and decide whether you want to hear any more or not. On to the game itself. This is a re-release, and from what I can tell, a remake of the original Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water, which came out some time ago, that was released for newer platforms, and I believe is on every platform now. And like the rest of the series, you have a Camera Obscura and you are banishing ghosts and taking spirit photographs and such in order to defeat ghosts or solve the mystery of the mountain you are on. And while I'm not all that far into the story, so far I have played as two different characters, and I believe there may be a third one as well, so you kind of are coming at the same story from different perspectives. So the story of this one relates to Mount Hikami, which has become known as a point where people go to take their own lives. It was originally a tourist destination, there were some landslides, and then there were a lot of shrine maidens who got killed at some point. Now, I'm not very far into the story. As I said, I've played probably a couple hours, not very much at all, really. And that's kind of all of the story points that I've gotten through thus far. Obviously, you're finding notes and stuff like that, and ghosts around. That's kind of the whole point, that kind of drip feed you the story and the information, because you are essentially a paranormal investigator, so you are aware of people missing on this mountain, and you are an assistant trying to find people missing on this mountain, but you don't necessarily know how they went missing, where they went missing, or much about the rumors of the mountain. And as I said, there are at least two different characters who are coming at this from different ways, one of whom is, as I said, essentially an assistant paranormal investigator, and the other who is looking for his friend, I believe, who got lost on the mountain. So it does have a good mystery to it. I don't think it's quite as intriguing as Fatal Frame 2. I think most people would argue that that's the best one in the series. It's the only one I've finished. I have played both Fatal Frame 1 and Fatal Frame 3, and of course The Mask of the Lunar Eclipse was, I believe, not only Wii exclusive, but Japanese exclusive, even though there was a way to play it, I'm pretty sure. Although it is getting a re-release, and possibly also a remake, relatively soon. But in any case, I don't think the story is quite as interesting as Fatal Frame 2. It's interesting, just not quite as interesting, if that makes sense. But I feel like the story of the Fatal Frame games is kind of always the most interesting part. They're all essentially mysteries, they're just kind of spooky mysteries because there are ghosts involved. So I am interested to see where this goes. Of course, there's also the maiden of the title, who is linked to this mystery as well because she keeps showing up, or different versions. Maybe they're different shrine maidens, maybe there's one main one, that would be my guess. But they keep popping up and are seemingly behind everything that has happened on this mountain since this incident occurred. Because for some reason, they're angry about being murdered. Gameplay-wise, I'm playing this on PS5, and it doesn't look great. It doesn't look bad, but it looks like it was definitely made more for PS4 than PS5. I don't know if there's that much of a graphical difference between the two, or a graphical upgrade. It looks really grainy for some reason. I think that might partly be stylistic, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like it. Obviously, there are bits that go into kind of a flashback mode that look like old film, and I know that one's intentional, but I don't know, every once in a while the graphics don't quite look as polished as I would expect. It starts you out with the classic controls, which is fine because, as I said, I played them on PS2, and I at least kind of know how they function, even if they feel very, very clunky. Now, I don't know if the other control scheme is any better. I didn't switch it because I had already learned all the buttons for the classic control scheme and I wasn't going to relearn them. And like I said, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but having played the other games before, there's at least slight muscle memory there. there. The one thing they've added, from what I can tell, is motion controls for the camera, which I feel is unnecessary, and I didn't realize at first, so I was flinging the controller around, not intentionally, but I was moving the controller around because I was just shifting, and the camera would go wild, and it was a problem. And then I turned them off, and then I had gotten used to the motion controls, so it felt weird to just use the stick, and I had to turn them back on. So I don't think that was a necessary addition. It kind of makes it a little more confusing, and you know, you want to tilt the camera at certain points to make things appear or just get a better shot on the ghosts, and it can actually be really awkward to do with the motion controls. Sometimes it can be easier, and sometimes it just goes nuts, and I don't know that I like that. But that's not to say it's all bad. One of the things I quite like is that when you collect a key or something, the map pops open and shows you where that key goes, what it opens, or where what it opens is. So that's really convenient, assuming you can find your way back there easily enough. It's a really nice addition. I like when games do that so I don't just wander aimlessly. None of the places I've been so far have been that big or confusing. The woods a little bit, they had a lot of different pathways in the section I was in, but it was still fairly straightforward, and you have a mechanic where you can, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically Spirit Sight, where if you have a token or memento from someone, you can hold R2 down and it will show their ghost or echo, essentially, and you can follow it to where you need to go, so that's also nice. It doesn't feel as easy to get lost in as some of the others do sometimes. There's also an episode select, which is really nice, because there are a lot of things and a lot of collectibles, a lot of missable ghosts. Like, there have been so many ghosts where they pop up out of nowhere, and this is where the motion controls get confusing because I hit the camera button and then I forget that I'm like leaning back or just moving without realizing it. And I try to take a picture of the kind of passive ghosts you can take pictures of, and it goes wrong, and then the ghost is gone, and then whatever. So, you know, if you want to collect all of those things, which I don't know if I'm going to do, I find them interesting and I do try to get them when I can, but I don't know if I'm compelled enough to go back and replay all of them, because a lot of them especially seem like they're going to be really hard to get anyway. But it's nice that that's an option without having to replay the entire game. You can also select the difficulty for every level, I believe, if I remember correctly, so that's a nice addition as well. One thing I find confusing is they have kind of directional arrows to point out where the passive ghosts are and where pickups are sometimes, as well as some other stuff, and they don't really seem to be helpful because, especially for stuff I can pick up, they'll show up way before they need to, they'll just spiral around the screen and not really point to where I need to be pointing at or where the thing is. They come up for passive ghosts, and sometimes I can't tell if it, like, there's no difference between the one that's for ghosts and the one that's for pickups, so it can be hard to tell what's going on. It doesn't really direct you for being a directional arrow. It doesn't really help direct you. It works better when ghosts are attacking you, which is nice, but it can be really confusing. Also unnecessary, always unnecessary, jiggle physics. Why? Those are kind of the main things. There are a couple of other things that I haven't really dealt with myself very much, one of which is spending your upgrade points, which you need to spend on your camera to upgrade your camera so you can take better photos and kill ghosts faster. You can use those points to unlock outfits. I don't know why this is necessary. I know outfits are kind of a thing, especially in Japanese games, I feel, and as much as I like to dress up my characters when I can, it seems unnecessary. I mean, honestly, and of course, because they're ladies, there's a swimsuit option. Not necessary. Like, maybe the other outfits, fine, whatever, but why? Why? As I said, another unnecessary addition. Finally, the other thing that I haven't really come into contact with that much, or at least I don't really have an option, it either happens or it doesn't because it starts raining or it's not raining, is that the more water that's around, or specifically the more water you get on you, for example, as I said, when it's raining, the more likely ghosts are going to show up. So that's an interesting mechanic, but as I said, I've either been able to take care of it with items when I'm just walking around and it's not raining, or it's specifically raining, my character immediately gets soaked, and then ghosts happen. I don't know what the point of this is, other than having a reason for a bunch of ghosts to come attack you. I don't know if it's going to be harder later on. Obviously, I have enough items to take care of it, so maybe if I run out, it will become a bigger problem. But like, so far, it's a cool idea, but I don't see it being implemented in an actually interesting way, because there are times when you have to walk through water, or just generally be around water. and it just doesn't seem to make any sort of difference. Now, it may eventually, maybe I have to walk through a flooded bit, and it's not raining, but I have to maintain not being soaked with walking through a flooded corridor or something. I don't know. I hope more comes into play with that. We'll see. Overall, I like it. I like all of the Fatal Frame games. I don't think it's going to be one of my favorites necessarily, but it's fine. And there you have it. There are my thoughts. What do you think of this game in particular, where it fits into the series, and anything else you want me to know? Let me know that down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed this. If you're not subscribed and want to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.